Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday morning, March the 18th. Spring officially kicks into gear tomorrow evening, specifically at 11:06 p.m. on Tuesday night, March the 19th. We will reach the spring equinox. However, there are still numerous cold air outbreaks that we'll have to deal with across the northern U.S. Not only this week, but next week and perhaps the following week as well. And the influx of additional cold air outbreaks really raises two issues: the likelihood for more accumulating snow across much of the northern U.S. and the likelihood for more severe weather outbreaks. We will have these clashes between the still incoming colder air masses from the north and west and increasingly warm and humid air masses pushing up from the north to the north from the Gulf of Mexico region. Let's start off here by looking at the total snowfall forecast from last night's 0Z run of the GFS for the next 10 days. And certainly you can see a very active area here across much of the northern U.S. going all the way into the southeastern part of Canada. This is quite impressive snow totals here for the next 10 days or so. It'll be quite difficult, not impossible, quite difficult to get some accumulating snow in that D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor, points to the south and east. Not impossible. We'll have to monitor a couple of systems here, but again, a lot of snow coming over the next 10 days across the northern U.S. and out in the Rocky Mountain states. Of course, they got pounded last week, places like Denver and all the Colorado Rockies and the Four Corners region as well. And it looks like a continuation of that pattern here. Some significant accumulating snow over the next 10 days, the Sierra Nevada mountains, and again, the Rocky Mountain states. Those higher elevation locations will get additional accumulating snow over the next 1 to 2 weeks. Well, let's take a look at the 850 millibar temperature anomalies, again using the conventional run of the GFS from last night at 0Z. Much colder air compared to what we've experienced for the last couple of weeks in the Mid-Atlantic region and the Northeast U.S. and the core of that coldest air as we begin the day here on Monday is centered over the middle Mississippi Valley in terms of the departures from normal. A very impressive cold air mass here for much of the eastern half of the nation. Remains warmer than normal across the Pacific Northwest. Now we'll push forward quickly here, and we'll notice that there will be additional cold air outbreaks. Stays chilly right through Tuesday, and then a secondary frontal system, another cold front pushes through the Great Lakes region, the Mid-Atlantic region by the middle of the week. Here we go into Wednesday morning. And look at this air mass coming across the northern plains, across the Great Lakes, and again there'll be a kind of a secondary push of this colder air. We turn a little bit milder during the day on Wednesday ahead of this next cold front in the Mid-Atlantic region, maybe 50 to 55 degree highs, D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, and then that next cold front comes through back to well below normal by the time we get to Thursday morning throughout the Mid-Atlantic region, the Northeast U.S., the Great Lakes, all the way to the northern plains. Meanwhile, above normal conditions across the Rocky Mountain states. Now, we'll move forward through into the upcoming weekend, and still additional cold air outbreaks moving into the northern plains by the early part of the upcoming weekend. And we'll have to watch, and we'll talk about this over the next couple of minutes, possibility of a strong low pressure area going towards the Mid-Atlantic coastline by the early part of the upcoming weekend. Here we are on Saturday, a lot of cold air around relative to normal for the latter part of March here across the northern U.S. Still a little bit above normal at the 850 millibar level out across the Rocky Mountain states, colder than normal down across the southeast. Now, we'll just go quickly through the weekend into next week, and still a lot of cold air relative to normal across Canada, the northern plains, and even now moving into the southwestern part of the U.S. This is a week from right now, next Monday. You can kind of see here the possible severe weather pattern setting up here. This is by next Tuesday or so, and there'll be some kind of a dichotomy here, setting up a clash zone, a battle zone with cold air to the north and west and warm air to the south and east. This is many days away, but I think there is a good chance of a severe weather outbreak sometime later next week with this split in the air between the colder air to the west and the warmer air to the east. Obviously, several days to go before that. We'll monitor the severe weather possibility for later next week over the next several days. Let's go a little bit farther in time, and here we go all the way to the middle of next week. And again, here is kind of a separation showing up this far in advance that I think could be quite significant in terms of leading to a potential severe weather outbreak sometime later next week. Well, let's walk through the 500 millibar height anomaly forecast maps from the 0Z GFS model. A lot of low pressure aloft over the northeastern quadrant of the nation, and again, colder than normal air associated with it. There's a disturbance here. We talked about this last week, a very slow moving disturbance that contributed to the snowstorm for Colorado and Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. It's still spinning out there over the southwestern states, causing some more instability. Nothing at all like last week, but still some unstable conditions out across the southwestern U.S. Now, we'll kind of quickly go forward here, and we have the basically a reinforcing cold air mass moving across the Great Lakes by the middle of this week, and by the time we get to Thursday, it gets back into the well below normal temperatures across the mid-Atlantic region after a brief milder day on Wednesday. Now, we continue to move forward here. Here we go later this week. This is Thursday. Again, spring officially begins late tomorrow night, Tuesday night. And this is the system down here that we'll have to watch for. And it's the same system that is now over the southwestern states. It'll likely be associated with pretty strong surface low that could end up moving right to the mid-Atlantic coastline. And here's the reflection of it on midday Saturn. And there's plenty of cold air around that if this in fact does move to the mid-Atlantic coastline, it could cause accumulating snow in those interior higher elevation locations of the mid-Atlantic northeast U.S. Let's say places like northeastern PA, upstate New York, something we'll have to watch for. Probably not quite cold enough for snow in the I-95 corridor region, but nonetheless an important system to monitor. And there'll be plenty of cold air around, especially again for the interior sections of the Northeast. Now, let's just kind of quickly go into next week. This is Sunday, and now into the day on Monday, and finally by Tuesday. And this is the potential battle zone area here setting up. We have this kind of strong ridge aloft setting up over the eastern half of the nation, and a deep upper level trough sliding into the west. This could be setting the stage for severe weather outbreak later next week. Again, this is associated with colder than normal air, and in the east, warmer than normal air. We'll have to watch for this. Over the next several days, we'll focus in on this potential severe weather threat later next week. Well, let's walk through the surface forecast maps, and you can see a cold high here situated over the central northern plains, and you also have this influx of air out of the northwest to the southeast. This is cold air relative to normal, certainly cold air relative to what we've experienced over the past several days in the mid-Atlantic region. Many places, even in the I-95 corridor region, won't escape the 40s today and will drop down to the low to mid-30s overnight tonight. Now, let's move forward here, and we'll see kind of a cold day on Tuesday, and then a bit of a warm-up on Wednesday. This is Wednesday morning, and the chill kind of relaxes a bit on Wednesday morning, and that's because it's really ahead of the next cold shot. You can see kind of a pattern here with the isobars reflecting a secondary cold front, and that just drives to the south and east during the day on Wednesday, and basically ushers in a reinforcing cold air mass to the mid-Atlantic region, to the northeast U.S. for Thursday. Let's keep moving forward here, and here comes that front. This is by Wednesday evening already, right to the coastline right here. Another influx of colder than normal air. And by the way, that frontal passage could have a few rain or snow showers associated with it in the mid-Atlantic region. Now, let's move forward here. Remember, we were following that system out of the southwestern states. It slides to the Gulf of Mexico by Thursday. A lot of cold air around here across the northern U.S. And this system down in the Gulf very well could end up right near the mid-Atlantic coastline by the early part of the upcoming weekend. And again, cold enough in interior sections, really from northeast PA, let's say places like the Poconos, upstate New York, interior New England. If indeed this ends up moving in this fashion here, and there's a strong likelihood for that, could be accumulating snow in interior northeastern states. Here we go, a very impressive storm system here just off the mid-Atlantic coastline. Several days to fine-tune the track of this particular system, so it's something we'll have to monitor this week for the early part of the upcoming weekend. And then still some cold air stretched across much of the northern U.S. This is all the way out to next Sunday. We'll go one more day out into the day on Monday, and we'll get some milder air across the eastern seaboard. But again, this is this time where some cold air will start to move across the Rocky Mountain states, and that ridge pops up in the east. Could be setting the stage for a widespread severe weather outbreak later next week. Again, a lot of cold air outbreaks to deal with over the next couple of weeks, and that keeps accumulating snow on the table for much of the northern U.S., and it certainly raises the possibility of those severe weather outbreaks. Again, later next week we'll have to focus in on that possibility. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.